Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Ka. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we come together on Wednesdays in order to support, encourage, and motivate each other in our meditation practice. On Sundays, we go through this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment, chapter by chapter. Students are reading this before class and or after class, and then on Sundays, I deliver a talk on each individual chapter. We just did chapter 8 this past week, and this next week, this Sunday coming up, we're going to be doing chapter 9, which is titled, What is Kama and How Does It Affect Me? So if you read that in the book prior to class and or after class, when you come to class or you listen to the replay, you'll be learning from me directly about that particular chapter and have an opportunity to ask any and all questions that you like. On Wednesdays, we come together in order to support, encourage, and motivate each other in our meditation practice. So far, I've gone through 4-part series on Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. I did a 4-part series on Loving Kindness Meditation, and then I did a 4-part series on Buddhist chanting. Now, this is the first class for the remaining part of the group learning program, which is about another 4 months, where we'll just be rotating between Breathing Mindfulness Meditation and Loving Kindness Meditation. Each class, what I'll be doing is I'll just guide you guys in meditation, whatever type of meditation it is for that particular day, either Breathing Mindfulness Meditation or Loving Kindness Meditation. And then I will open up to any and all questions that you guys might have. It's kind of like a miscellaneous question day. You can ask questions about your meditation practice and building that up. You can ask questions about the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, that chapter 6 where we talked about the middle way and understanding the middle way. You can learn and ask questions about transforming the 3 poisons. And as we go, any and all questions really that you would like to ask questions about related to the teachings of the Buddha, because as you progress on this path, you're going to have certain questions that you need answered. You're going to need to reach out and get help. And you can get help through posting a question in the Facebook group, through asking questions in a class like this, either Sunday, Wednesday, or Saturday. You can also send a private message, and you can schedule personal guidance sessions to get help to ensure that you're getting the clarity that you need, because this is your independent journey. This is your path to enlightenment. I'm just here as a guide. I'm just here pointing the way and saying this is the way towards enlightenment in terms of reading books, in terms of learning and reflecting and practicing the teachings, in terms of building up your practice of the Eightfold Path, in terms of seeking help and getting guidance. I'm providing you the guidance and understanding of how to progress on this path, but it's your own independent journey. The teacher is just here in order to make themselves available for you to reach out and get help as you like. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. If you're attending live through either Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions, of course. I'd like to welcome all of you guys. And some of you guys might be listening to this on the replay, either in Facebook, YouTube, or in the podcast. And we also live stream to other places as well that you guys might be digesting this content there. So I'd like to welcome all of you and let you know that you're invited to join us for meditation. And after meditation, you're invited to ask any and all questions that you like. And the way that you'll ask questions is in Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. You can put those into the comments section and our moderator will see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. So let's go ahead and go into breathing mindfulness meditation. I'll guide you guys in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. And then afterwards, we'll just open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha or applying them into your daily life and so forth and so on. So go ahead and take a position. Usually it's the seated, lying, or standing position for an online class. There's also the walking position, which I teach as well, but not typically through a live stream. So most people are going to be taking a seated position, which means you're either in a chair or you're on the floor. If you're on the floor, you might have a cushion under your rear with your legs lightly crossed. This gets your rear up in the air and it lessens the angle at your hips, your knees, and your ankles. If you're in a chair, you might just put your feet flat on the floor, or some people like to cross their ankles. It's not about everybody doing it exactly the same. It's about finding what position is comfortable for you. So your lower body should be comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but comfortable. Your hands and your arms, there's a lot of different options here. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and you can do that if you like, putting that into your lap. But some people prefer to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people like to put their palms up. So it's completely up to you. If you're in a chair with armrests, you might even decide to put your arms on the armrest of the chair. Your lower body and hands and arms should be completely relaxed. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull and lethargic. Or if your upper body was real rigid and uptight, the mind would probably be overactive. So you'd like the upper body to be erect, in the middle, not real rigid and uptight, but also not slouched either. So with the lower body, hands and arms completely relaxed and comfortable, and the upper body erect, next, you just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just establishing the breath. I'm going to ease into meditation with some chanting. You're welcome to join along with this if you know the chants. Otherwise, I'll be back after the chanting in order to guide you and get you deeper into meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Samuro Sakhato Rokavito Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusaram Poto Bhagavati. Okay, you should just be breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just establishing the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just gradually breathing in through the nose. And whenever you're ready, a nice exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath isn't going to necessarily match up with the guidance that I'm providing. I'm just here for guidance, to remind you to breathe in through the nose, and whenever you're ready, to exhale out through the nose. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. So wherever you get to the next inhale, breathe in through the nose, experiencing the full breath, a nice, gradual, steady, natural breath. And when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Once the breath is established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of the air moving into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Just wherever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath. Anytime the mind moves off the breath, cut it off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. You have nowhere to go, There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in, out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมโมโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. So this meditation is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. It helps to arise mindfulness in the mind or awareness of mind so that you have awareness of the thoughts, the feelings, the ideas, things like this. And it also helps to arise concentration, the ability to focus on a single object like the breath. And it's training the mind to more easily let go. Because with craving, desire, attachment, the mind tends to be holding on. The unenlightened mind doesn't want to let go. So you can train the mind like you're exercising a muscle to let go, to let go, to let go. And now with that mindfulness and concentration that you develop in meditation, in daily life, you're aware of the mind more readily when you're in daily life. And when you observe the frustration or you observe the anger or sadness or boredom or loneliness or other discontent feelings starting to arise, you can then cut them off and let them go if you've been training in meditation. But if you haven't been training in this way, the way that I just described, which is what Gautama Buddha taught, if you're not training that way, you're not going to be able to cut off the anger and the frustration and the guilt and the shame and the fear and all these other discontent feelings. So this is a practice that you're doing 2 or 3 times a day, building up to about 30 minutes or more. But typically people start out much less than that, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's really up to you. But gradually build up your practice to be about 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. And then it helps to train the mind to get that mindfulness or awareness of mind, the concentration, be able to focus on a single object, and it's able to easily let go. And these qualities of mind will benefit you in daily life, that as you're in daily life and you see unwholesome thoughts arise or you see certain discontent feelings arise, you can cut them off and let them go. With the wholesome thoughts in daily life, follow those, go forward with those. You don't need to cut those off. So in Meditation, we're training to cut off all thoughts, just to train the mind to easily let go. But in daily life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts. Wholesome thoughts you're going to follow. If you get a certain wholesome idea, certain wholesome thought, you follow that. In meditation, we're training the mind to cut off thoughts just to gain this ability to know that there is a thought and to be able to easily cut it off and let it go. But understand, you will always have thoughts in meditation. Even when your mind is enlightened, you will have a thought. But the difference is in the unenlightened mind, there's typically a bombardment of thoughts. Or you might indulge in the thought for a long period of time before you realize, oh yeah, I need to cut that off and let it go. In the enlightened mind, after you've trained your mind to the point where it's actually enlightened, you'll have these long periods of stillness and quietness in the mind. Occasionally there'll be a thought, but you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and let it go right away, which is very different than what you were experiencing prior to the mind getting to enlightenment. With the mind prior to enlightenment, again, there's that bombardment of thoughts. There's the indulging in the thought and following it for a minute or two or three or four before you realize, oh yeah, I'm meditating. Let me cut that off and bring the mind back. So don't think that you're attempting to eliminate thoughts, but you're developing this mindfulness, this concentration, and the ability to easily let go of the thoughts. That's what you're working to accomplish 2 or 3 times a day, building up to about 30 minutes or more per session. So I'm going to turn things over to all of you guys to see if there's any questions about meditation or anything else related to the path to enlightenment. You're welcome to ask any and all questions, and we can discuss those by putting them into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. In the comment section, our moderator will see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like.
Hello, teacher. I have a question. I just wanted to ask you, when we're meditating and we're placing our right hand on top of our left without thumbs touching like the Buddha did, is that a symbol for anything, or does it mean anything at all, or is that just a position?
It's just a position that you're taking. What I noticed when I first started meditating is that when I didn't have my hands overlapping and the thumbs together, I didn't feel as connected. When I put my right hand over the left with the thumbs together, I feel like there's a connection. I feel like the whole body and the whole mind is kind of focusing on one spot. Nowadays, I still will occasionally put my hands on my thighs or my knees, particularly when I'm at the temple and it's pretty hot sometimes in the summer, and I might be sweating and my hands are kind of sweating, just overlapping each other because it's so hot in Thailand. So I'll usually just put my hands on my thighs out of practicality to just let the sweat kind of dissipate and evaporate. But I prefer to put right hand over left with the thumbs together because I feel like there's a connection and the whole body's connected, the mind is connected, everything's just right here and focused in the center and in the middle.
That's great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I also have another question. This is about a family member who is not very well at the moment, and the doctors think that this family member will possibly die soon because of how bad her illness is, and my family is quite distressed about this, and particularly my mom, she's having a hard time kind of not stressing over this family member passing away. So I try to offer her a shoulder, kind of help her out if possible. But I am kind of in the mind that this family member, whatever will happen to them will happen, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do to stop whatever will happen. But for my family, this is kind of like them thinking I don't really care as much, or I'm not implicated emotionally. So I'm just wondering, do you think this is true? If we're just accepting of whatever will happen, does that mean we don't care?
Yes, so let me help you with that. So in the unenlightened mind, the untrained mind, it doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence. The mind is craving and clinging, holding on, wanting things to be permanent. And I remember you said that this is your nan, right? So it's understandable that your mom is having difficulties with her mother getting ready to pass away, because that's one of the strongest attachments that we tend to have in the world, is to our mother. So your mother is going to really struggle with this because her mind doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence. Her mind is attached and craving and longing and trying to hold on to her mother, your grandmother, and thinking that she's going to be permanent. And in the unenlightened state, not only is there craving, desire, attachment where the mind's holding on, and then there's these discontent feelings of sadness or frustration or irritation, annoyance, but oftentimes in the unenlightened mind, the mind misunderstands craving, desire, attachment as love. We think that the craving, desire, attachment, which the unenlightened mind doesn't even understand what that is, and it doesn't understand what the universal truth of impermanence is. But when the mind experiences sadness at the time of death, they think that that's because of the love or the care. Or if somebody is frustrated or angry or grieving, they think that that's because of the love. But what's really causing that grief and that sadness is the craving, desire, attachment, and the misunderstanding of the universal truths of existence and these natural laws of existence, that the unenlightened mind doesn't understand impermanence, that the mind thinks that mom or grandma should be permanent. So somebody who doesn't understand these things of the universal truth of impermanence, that doesn't understand craving, desire, attachment, is causing that discontent feeling, that love is not what's causing the discontentedness, that it's craving, desire, attachment. They're going to be really shaken up around the time of death. If somebody gets married in a family, or if you go off to college, any kind of impermanence, their mind's going to be really shaken up by it because they just don't understand what they don't understand. And there's that craving in there. And they might, because of their experiences, perceive that because another person isn't grieving the same as them, and they're thinking that it's love that's causing the grief, when they see that you're not grieving and you're not sad and you're not worried, they might perceive it as you don't love anybody or you don't love grandma. But that's because they're misunderstanding what's causing their grief. They're thinking that it's the love that's causing their grief, but it's really the craving, desire, attachment. What love is this genuine interest in seeing others be well. That's it. You just have an interest in seeing all beings be well. And you understand that in order for people to be well, they have to make those decisions. You can contribute to that. If you have a family member who's not well, I imagine you're doing this. You're probably bringing them food or fruit, or you're probably spending time with them and talking to them. You might be helping them bathe if they're having difficulties with that. You might be able to take them out, get some fresh air from time to time, or bring them a book or spend some time with them. These are all things that we do out of loving kindness, compassion, and generosity. And you can do those things without being sad, without grieving, without being frustrated or being emotionally tied to this situation. Because what your mind has, what your mom doesn't have, is your mind has an understanding of the universal truth of impermanence. And you know that grandma's going to die. It's only a matter of time, whether it's now or whether it's 20 years from now, it's going to happen. And allowing the mind to be shaken up by this impermanence isn't helping anybody to do anything. So in the unenlightened state, and someone who's untrained, they're going to perceive their grief as because of love. And when you're not grieving, they may misunderstand that and think that you don't love this person. So it's actually a great opportunity, if your mom's mind is open to it, to talk to her about the Four Noble Truths, or talk to her about craving, desire, attachment, and discontentedness, or talk to her about true love. But they may or may not be open to that. And that's where, with a parent, you need to be very humble. You need to ask them if they're open to a conversation, and then be very humble as you explain it to them. Maybe even sitting on the floor, having them sit on the sofa or something like that. That's common here in Thai culture, that the parents will sit on the sofa, the children will sit on the floor. But if you feel comfortable sitting at a dining table or at a restaurant or on a sofa or something, feel free. You do whatever your personality feels comfortable with. But this could be potentially a great opportunity to help mom understand that her painful feelings are coming from her craving for grandma to be permanent, when grandma's not permanent, unfortunately.
Thank you, sir. I do have a follow-up question. Do you think that some people just generally have a very hard time understanding, for example, the Four Noble Truths? Because I have tried to kind of talk to my mom and say to her, look, grandma is not permanent. she will go one day, and I know you know that. But do you really think there's any benefit in being so stressed right now? Like, doing yourself all this harm? Because obviously, a lot of stress is not good for the body.
Mhm.
So I said, do you think there's any value in this? And she kind of acknowledged that there isn't, but
Mhm.
continues to do the same thing. So I'm wondering, is that very common?
Okay, sure. So there's the intellectual learning and understanding of something that is a truth. Then there's that reflection to independently verify it. And then there's the practice to transform the mind. So somebody could easily intellectually understand the Four Noble Truths or the universal truth of impermanence and things like this, and intellectually understand that stress is not helpful. But then, because they haven't moved the teachings into practice, the mind is still polluted with that craving, desire, attachment. So they're incapable of getting to a point where they're stress free because they haven't done the practice part, which is the Eightfold Path, the entire Eightfold Path, to include the breathing mindfulness meditation that we've done today. So even though mom might intellectually have talked to you about the Four Noble Truths and agrees and sees the truth in it, because she hasn't done the work to practice and transform the mind, she's still going to have those painful feelings, particularly because this is a attachment that's so close to her because it's her mom. So if it's like she loses her mobile phone, or maybe there's a scratch on her car, maybe it doesn't really shake her up. But because this is such a significant attachment for her, it's much harder for her mind to let that go. So she might intellectually acknowledge that what you're telling her about the Four Noble Truths is the truth, but until she commits to doing the work and training her mind to let go, she will experience discontentedness. And one of the ways that the mind does eliminate attachment to human beings or other beings, even like pets and stuff like that, is because of death. Because death kind of triggers the craving, desire, attachment to arise, and there can be that deep suffering or that deep grieving and misery that occurs, and it can last for whatever period of time. But then at some point, the mind will typically let it go, and then it'll be liberated from those feelings. But then your mom's going to have other cravings. She's probably attached to you, right? Like she wants you to feel the same thing she's feeling, because not only do you tend to be attached to your mother in the unenlightened state, but you also tend to be attached to your children. Even someone like my wife, who is practicing these teachings for a really long period of time, and she lives with a teacher who can help her with any number of things about the path to enlightenment. I observed how she was very attached to her son, more so than what I was attached. So people tend to be very attached to their mothers, and mothers tend to be very attached to their children. Not in all cases, of course, but this is just tends to be the case. A father can also have deep attachment to their children too. But because we're talking about your grandmother, your mom, and you all being females, that's why I'm describing this, that this is pretty common, but it's just because she hasn't put the teachings into practice. She would need to get fully on the path in order to deeply train her mind to be able to let go of this very significant attachment. And then sometimes what can be helpful too is that it sounds like you've done a decent job, helping your mom to understand these Four Noble Truths, and she may understand them to a certain degree intellectually. But she might be having a bit of a challenge to see you as a teacher and somebody who she can actually learn from. I don't know. It depends on your relationship with her. And I'm also sharing this because of other people listening to this right now might have this situation where their parents aren't quite open-minded to learning from you as a child. And if you feel that, or if you see that, or you observe that, what you might decide to do is send them a YouTube link to a video where I've taught the Four Noble Truths, or ask them if they'd be interested to learn the Four Noble Truths and set them down in front of a electronic device where they can learn from a video where I've taught the Four Noble Truths. And that way they're learning from someone else besides you. And what you might decide to do is ask them, can you watch this video and let me know what your thoughts on it are? I value your perspective, and I would like you to share with me what your thoughts are on this, right? You already know what your thoughts are, but this is a way to kind of get them perhaps interested and intrigued because they feel like they're watching watching this video in order to have a conversation with you about it afterwards. And this will kind of set things up where they're watching this hour and a half, 2 hour online class about the Four Noble Truths, and then they're open to a conversation with you about them afterwards, where they're having challenges understanding certain aspects of the teachings. If you feel prepared to be able to help them, you can then clarify that for them. If you don't feel that you're prepared, you can always guide them to seeking help and guidance from me. But this can be another way to help them deeper understand, because they're learning from somebody else other than you. And in that conversation about the Four Noble Truths that I have in these online classes, I oftentimes mention about how, okay, you learn this intellectually, now you need to move it into practice, and I will teach them how to move it into practice. That might be the part that you haven't taught your mom yet, and that's why her mind still has that craving, because she understands it intellectually, but she hasn't transformed the mind and uprooted the craving out of the mind.
Yes, thank you, teacher. There's also no other questions across any of the live streaming platforms.
Okay, well, I'll just end class by thanking all of you for joining and invite you to attend a future class. Next week on Wednesday, we'll be doing loving kindness meditation together and opening up to questions just like we did today. This Sunday in the group learning program, I'll be in chapter 9, which is titled, What is Gamma and How Does It Affect Me? And then, of course, on Saturdays, we have the Pali Canon and English study group, where you're always welcome to join that as well. So thank you again for joining. I'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Sawadee khap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.